Hello, grade 10. We're going to do activity 5.9 quickly. It's a sport point program, just like we did yesterday. And we're going to add code to this program. Remember this one? We're going to add code. And if a learner plays any sport, then we're going to add 10 points to our points. So we're going to do this. If any of these checkboxes, well, we've got to go and quote them all. If CHB cricket.checked, so I'm going to say if CHB cricket.checked, if any, so if that one, or CHB hockey.checked, or CHB, let's go and put it on the next line, so you can see B rugby dot checked. I could go and type it all on one long line, but then you wouldn't be able to see it. So, or CHB soccer dot checked, and take note, I'm not going to type equals true each time because I don't have to. Then we say our points equals our points plus 10. Now, as you can see, we've got that for the cricket up there, so we can actually delete that statement now. Otherwise, we're going to be adding 10 extra points and we don't need to. By the way, you don't have to type an or with capital letters. Either capital or small letters, doesn't matter. So that's that one. If any one of those are checked, if that is checked, or that is checked, or that is checked, or that is checked, then we add 10 points. And then if a learner is in grade 11 or grade 12, so now we're going to have a difficult one. If the RGP grade.item index equals, see, I copied and pasted there, equals 1, or open brackets, I copied it, pasted again, if it's equal to 2. Okay, so we have those two. I'll put those in big brackets because we're going to have another thing. Are we going to have an and or an or? And the CHB hockey.checked, and open brackets, see checkbox hockey.checked. Now I could say if CHB hockey.checked equals true. I can type the equal true there. Well, I don't have to because it means the same thing. If you say dot checked, it means that it's true, that it has been checked. Then what is the points going to be? We're going to add our points, add something to the points. It's going to be adding 5 to the points. So there you have the code for that one, for those two radio buttons of the textbook. Right, so now we're going to do the next program. We're going to open, we're going to go to this one here, the I Can Guess game. And that is on page 108. Okay, well, this is we're talking about a show message component now. So we're going to use the show message component, a new thing. And we're going to talk about procedures and functions. So let's do it. We're going to open the I Can Guess program in the chapter 5 data files. There's the program, and in this program we're going to use a function and a procedure. Now, show message is a procedure. What is a procedure? Well, you'll see the difference between a function and a procedure in the way that we use it. In other words, the way that we call it. And functions and procedures belong to the collective noun called methods. A method is either a function or a procedure. We're going to use a randomize function and a show message procedure. So randomize is a function, show message is a procedure, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, we've got to generate a random number. And the number must be in the range from 0 to 100. Now we want to use the random range procedure. So in order to use random range, we need to add, in the user section over here, we need to add the math unit. Now this is the button click for generating a random number. We've got to put the random number into a variable, so I'm going to put variables here, random integer. You can also just type var and then put your variables underneath there. And now we're going to use the random range function. But before we do that, let's use the word randomize. Now that's telling I think I spelled it wrong. Yeah, right. Let's run the program and make sure I've spelled that correctly. Yes, nope, it's got to be with a Z. Randomize. That randomize is a procedure. We are telling the processor to do something. This is a procedure that's written in Delphi, and it's sitting in the library of all the Delphi procedures and functions that we can use. And that procedure is just doing it, randomizing. It tells it, and what it actually really does is make sure the processor chooses a different random number each time. So I'm going to go and get my random number. I'm going to put it into an integer variable. So I say random equals random range. Now random range is a function. And how do I know that? Because it's on the which side of our equal sign? The right hand side. Does randomize, the procedure randomize, does it have any equal sign around it? No. It also doesn't have any parameters, but random range has a parameter, 2 parameters actually. Parameters, what are they? Those are little things that go off to the function or the procedure. This function's got 2 parameters. The first parameter in brackets, that's the things that you put in brackets after you write the function name. In this case, a function name. And the first one is the bottom range of the random numbers that we want to choose, want the processor to choose. And the second parameter will be the top range of the random numbers we want the processor to choose. And we want 100 to be the highest number, but for this particular random range function, we have to type in 1 digit more than our highest range. So that is going to choose this random range function with those 2 parameters, and they're both integers, is going to allow the processor to choose a number including 0 and 100. Any number from 0 to 100. 101 will not be chosen, but that is the format, and that is what you have to put in to the second parameter. We call this the parameter list. There's 2 integers there in the parameter list. So this processor will then get a random number from 0 to 100, put it into the integer variable called random. And now, there's a problem, because we are going to use the check my number button after the user's typed in a number. So check my number has to use that generated random number, but we declared this random number as a local variable, which was wrong, wrong, wrong. Why? Because local variables get deleted each time we click the button. If I click this button, I'm running code, and I click generate random number, but now the random number is out of memory. If I go and click here, we're not going to be able to check whether the number we entered here is going to be equal or less than or greater than the random number that is been chosen in this button click. So we have to make, because this random integer is going to be used in other button click events, we have to go and make it a global variable and put it here where our global variables are for now. There are other places over here, private and public, we can put them too, but for now we'll put our global variables over here until you get used to using global variables. You must remember you have to use as few global variables as possible, because global variables means that these variables are going to be available in memory, remember RAM of your computer, for the whole duration of the program being run. While the program's running, those global variables are going to sit in memory. But if you make local variables, the variables are only available while that button has been clicked. So now I can get rid of that VAR for now. And here I'm setting a random number, random, to a computer generated number from 0 to 100. So that's that done. And we know now we've got random as a global variable. Now in this other button click event, we've got to go and read from the edit box, edt guess, so let's go and do that. We've got to go and put that into a string, but it's got to be a number, not a string, because we want to compare it with random. So we have to have num, or let's call it guess. Now if we go and say guess equals string to int, remember, because the edit box is a string and we have to convert it to an integer, edtguess.text. Problem here is, what if the person typed in a letter or a sentence or something wrong? Well, we need to go and check that edtguess.text, it's a string. We better check that there's no characters in there, you know, because if we go and type in, let's say I'm going to type in, let's say generate random number, fine, and then I go type in a number, but I put something else in. Okay, let's say we type T7 or a T3 or T5 instead of 15. Then when we check the number, there's going to be a problem. Okay, we can actually write code so that problem, if there's a problem, then we'll have a message showing that, hey, you've got to type in a number, not a string. And we do that with a really fancy procedure, a procedure called val. Val, we just type val, open brackets, and then look at the tooltips. We have string, and then var, v, and codes, 2 integers. A string, this is saying there's a string and there's 2 integers that must come into val. These are the parameter list. Can you see that? This is the val is a built-in Delphi procedure. It has 3 parameters. First one is a string, then an integer, and then an integer. And now we're going to put our string in first, and then we'll describe what the other 2 are. The first is our string in our edit box. We want to validate edtguess.text, and then comma. We want to see if edtguess.text can be converted to an integer, so we put inum over there, and then comma. The third parameter is our code that will result if whatever happens after the processor has checked to see if the string, we can convert it to an integer, then our code will have a specific number. If our code is 0, then the conversion was successful. If our code is not 0, then we have to show a message. We have to tell the user, like, hey, we couldn't convert. Now all you do is you type the string there, whatever you want to check, then you type inum there and rcode there. Now inum and rcode has not been declared as variables, so we better just go and do that quickly. Inum, rcode. So we've now got our 2 variables, inum and rcode. You don't have to worry what happens there, you just make sure you put those 2 in there, but I'm telling you what happens. The procedure will see if that string can be converted into inum, and if it can, then rcode will be 0. But if our code is not equal to 0, then we'll do begin and end two things. Two things. We're going to show a message. So here we're using our show message procedure. A very simple procedure which will give a little dialog box, and the user can click OK. Show message. Please enter an integer. And we always say please. Please enter an integer. And what else are we going to do? Well, we're going to exit this procedure. See this procedure, btn check number. We can set the focus onto this edit box, yeah, edtguess dot set focus. We can clear the edtguess dot clear edtguess dot set focus. But most of all, we want to close this procedure. We'll exit. Exit will close the procedure. And if we use another one, exit will just close this button click event. The program will not close, but exit will close. Now, exit is a procedure. It's a procedure that closes a procedure. Show message is a procedure, because why? There's no equal sign. Val is a procedure because there's no equal sign, we're just doing it. But string to int is a function. So now you can go through your code and check which is functions or which are procedures. This is a procedure, that's a procedure, exit is a procedure, this is also .clear is a procedure, .set focus is a procedure because we're just doing it. There's no equal sign involved. But string to int is a function because it's on the right hand side of our equal sign. Now I'll put exit there because it's going to close the procedure. The program will not close. If you want the program to close, you write application.terminate. That's if you want it to terminate. But actually, we don't need to terminate the program because the user is going to type another number. So we will just put exit. And now let's see what happens when you run this code. Don't worry about this line over here. We're going to put in a letter inside there. Oops, let's see if our code, but our code is there. Oh, missing operator semicolon. I forgot to put a semicolon on the previous line. So don't do what I do. Oh, yeah, most of the time do what I do. Right, so we generate random number. Let's go and put in the wrong thing here. Click check my number. Can you see it says please enter an integer? And click OK. And now the focus was set back onto this edit box. So the procedure, this button click closed, but before it closed, we basically made it easy for the user to now enter a number again. Do you see? And we click on and type any number, click check my number, and as you can see, nothing happens because we haven't written code, but we did write one line. Can you see over here? We said our guess equals string to ent edtguess.text. And we can do that because if the procedure exits, this will not happen. We saw what happened when we typed in the wrong name. We had that message come up and then we were able to type in another number. But the procedure had exited. This procedure here, btn check number click, this button click, which we're dealing with right now. Right, so if we put the right number in, our guess, we can then go and convert it into an integer. edtguess.text can be successfully converted to an integer. And now we're going to go and see if our guess is equal to the random number, our random. Where does our random come from? Remember, it's the global variable that we use to store a generated random number in our generate button click event. So if our guess is equal to our random, that global variable up there, then what are we going to say? Sorry. We're going to say correct. We're going to show message because there's no other place to display. There's no place to display. There's only, we have to use show message. We say the word correct. and then we will join that to the actual R random number into string R random. Now this is a whole string as a parameter inside the show message procedure. One string inside the show message procedure. Right, so now I'm going to copy and paste to make it quicker. Highlight that, Control C, paste and paste again. Why? Because I'm going to use a greater than sign there and then a less than sign here, and I'm going to say too, if it's greater it's too high, and if it's less than, then it's too low. That's it. Take note how copying and pasting makes it quicker to do what you need to do. And that is the end of that, and we finished that activity. Right, so I know it works, so you can try it by yourself.